when you are a young PhD student, you're always thinking that you are going to invent something revolutionary that will change the face of the earth. While this might be true for some few true geniuses of the world, what I have learned in places like IBM Research, for example, is that you are always building on top of giants who preceded you. And that incremental nature of scientific discovery and advancement of knowledge is really, truly remarkable. That's the only way we as humans can progress, the way that we have done. If we are always trying to invent something that's completely different than anything that we have built on, that will be a challenge. And I think that the likelihood of success will be very minimal.
Welcome to Flavors of Ambition. I'm so glad you could join me, Ramia Farrage, for another absorbing conversation. Today's guest is at the center of Saudi Arabia's drive to build sovereign AI. Dr. Yaser Al-Onaizan is the Deputy CEO and President of Data and AI Models at HUMAIN. Welcome, Dr. Yaser.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you and your audience.
It's wonderful to have you. And rejoining me is a guest reshaping the way nations and businesses think about the future of technology. Dr. Akram Awad is Managing Director and Partner at BCG, where he leads transformative work in data, AI, and smart cities across the Middle East. Dr. Akram, it's wonderful to have you back, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Same here. Thank you very much. Great to see you again.
Now, with your expertise and your unique perspective on Dr. Yaser, how would you introduce him? And what really stands out about his impact in the field of AI?
I had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Yaser, I think ever since he came back to KSA to join the National Center for AI. So it's actually been a few years. To me, Dr. Yaser really represents the very best of this nation. He represents the qualities, the confidence, and the capabilities of the Saudi people. He's not just someone who is a deep technical expert, but also someone who can advance and drive national and corporate AI strategies. He is the dreamer who can really push the boundaries of what's possible, but he's also the builder who can really rally engineers and scientists behind him to deliver on his vision. He's also the patriot who believes, and I've seen it over and over, in what this nation has uniquely and can build on. But he also combines that with the pragmatism to collaborate with others and to learn from others. I think for me, this blend is really what makes him uniquely exceptional.
Dr. Yaser, turning to your work today as Deputy CEO and President of AI Models and Data at HUMAIN, what does your role really involve? I mean, how does it connect to HUMAIN's broader mission?
Absolutely. Before I answer this question, though, I just wanted to thank Dr. Akram for his kind words, and I can only hope that I am half the man he describes. So thank you very much, Dr. Akram. So let me maybe talk a little bit about what HUMAIN main objectives and our vision for it. So HUMAIN is a global player with ambitions on the entire value chain of AI. So from the bricks of data centers, AI first data centers, all the way to applications and solutions that impact people's lives on a daily basis, and everything in between. And that requires the depth of understanding on a variety of technologies and having the right partnerships that are needed to be able to execute on that vision. When we're talking about AI, this is, the talent is scarce. And so that it is absolutely necessary to form the right partnerships to be advancing in all these areas. My role in the company is, while it is defined by a title, I don't think it's, I want to just box myself into that title. It's that I see myself as someone who's required to do whatever it takes to make sure that HUMAIN is successful in delivering its mission. if that something that is required to look at advanced technologies and finding the right people to be building these advanced technologies, then that is part of my role. If it would be required to, in a business meeting, have discussions about soccer or any other things that will allow us to be able to be successful in executing our mission, I can bring that to the table as well. But more specifically on the deputy CEO role, obviously as a deputy, you cover for the CEO whenever they are not present. You cover whatever is being asked from the CEO to execute on special missions and stuff like that. But also because of my technical depth that I have accumulated throughout the years in the US, I also play a role as, in a way, a technical advisor to the CEO as well. And I kind of make sure that, we are covering that. I lead the technical committee within the company, for example, where there's a panel of experts in a variety of technologies that assess internally what we're doing here. In addition, I also lead the core modeling teams of, this is what I have been doing, for the last 30 years, and I continue to do that, and bringing the talent from my network to be able to help us on this journey.
I would like to know first about growing up in Saudi. Were there experiences or influences that sparked your curiosity about science and technology, and which really led you to become a researcher and a leader in AI?
So, when I was growing up, I grew up in a family where science is really valued. My late father played a huge importance on schooling, especially in math and science. When we were kids growing up, playing soccer and getting fascinated about the world of football and so on and so forth, he really always brought it to the point is that without that foundation, nothing else matters. So I would say that the curiosity is driven by going through math. I think is really the foundation of everything that I've been fascinated with. Math, number theory, that type of stuff from early age. My father was instrumental in teaching the curiosity about numbers and how they relate to each other and so on and so forth. Later on, as I grew up, my older brother has majored in math and computer science. I found that combination to be what inspires me to do the best, and that's really the choice I made when I was about to enter college. AI was not discovered in the last few years. It was actually discussed during that time. So I also was fascinated by AI and the multidisciplinary nature of it. We're combining knowledge about the brain of the humans, does it operate, and so on and so forth, but also learning about how math can constitute the foundation of building intelligent systems. And that really what inspired me to go into this field.
Well, having lived and worked in both the US and Saudi, what cultural and professional contrasts shaped your approach to research, innovation, and leadership?
I think that there are things that many people discount, which is the historical importance of science and discovery in the Islamic and Arab world. If you go back to the history, many of the mathematical foundations in algebra and algorithms and other ways are well steeped into the history of Islamic and Arabic culture. And if we go back further, it is also that these people were not trying to invent again things from scratch. They are actually trying to build on what other cultures have built and so on and so forth. So the biggest achievement was for them to link the East and the West and to keep pushing and keep advancing that type of things. So when I went to the US, for example, if you go to any graduate college, especially, the top ones in the field, you will see that a mixture of cultures. They're coming from many different aspects of life. The only thing that unifies them is the knowledge and the will to advance human knowledge. And that, I think, is a unifying force that can bring in people from different cultures, from different cultural backgrounds, different religions even. So I think that that's really what, the U.S. model, let's say, was extremely successful is because of that, because it allows people to come from different backgrounds and to contribute without asking them to leave their culture and heritage behind.
And your educational foundation is really in the U.S. You were working with research leaders like IBM Research and AWS. What was your biggest discovery during that period, and what really surprised you the most?
There are many things, obviously, when you go to these places that are steeped in the value of discovery and scientific discovery and knowledge and the contribution that they made to the field, is that I think that when you are a young PhD student, you're always thinking that you are going to invent something revolutionary that will change the face of the earth. While this might be true for some few true geniuses of the world, what I have learned in places like IBM Research, for example, is that you are always building on top of giants who preceded you. And that incremental nature of scientific discovery and advancement of knowledge is really, truly remarkable. That's the only way we as humans can progress, the way that we have done. If we are always trying to invent something that's completely different than anything that we have built on, that will be a challenge, and I think that the likelihood of success will be very minimal.
You reached a pivotal moment when you were in the States. Continue your journey abroad or return home and help serve the national mission. Why did you leave the States and come back to Saudi?
That's a very good question, and always thinking about it. So for a very long time when I was in the U.S., actually, after finishing my PhD, I intended to go back directly to Saudi Arabia. Then the decision is to try it out for 1 year. The 1 year became 20 all of a sudden. And I've always considered, I knew that inside my heart that I will come back eventually to Saudi Arabia because this is my home. This is what I want to, contribute. I grew up here. I was born and raised here. My family is here for many, many years. So I felt like the obligation to pay back the country that I have, always loved. But that's only part of the reason. The more important reason in my mind is that in 2016, 2015, something happened that, where the Vision 2030 was laid out. Since the document came out, I've been an observer from afar, looking at this, and I've been, observing. So, as I said, I was in the U.S. The first time I went to the U.S. was in 1994, and compare the technological advances between what was I experiencing here in Saudi Arabia and what is experienced in the U.S. There was this gap, huge gap between what you see there and what you see here. And every year that gap shrinks. And in the pivotal moments of early days of Vision 2030, what was abundantly clear to anyone who would actually look at the document is the clarity of vision and the clarity of the North Star that, that galvanizes not just a small portion of it, but the entire country to be rallied towards a common goal. Not many countries are lucky to have that vision, and not many people are lucky to have that vision, because usually the vision is half of the problem, maybe even more than that. So for me, I found myself at a point where, for selfish reasons, that I cannot see this happening and not be part of it. And then my hope is that through this selfish reason, I'll be able to contribute even a little bit into achieving the goals that were set forth in 2030. Saudi Arabia has been going through a digital revolution, and AI is uh, a revolution that is happening in its own right, but it cannot happen without the digital infrastructure and the data that feeds into the AI. And I felt like Saudi Arabia had enormous advantages that, I'll be more successful. In the US, I could be impacting companies, maybe part of the company, maybe the entire company. But in Saudi Arabia, I felt like I could contribute to impacting the whole country.
And now you have successfully embedded Arabic and Islamic culture into your LLM, and we were going to talk about that a little bit more. But I would like to first ask you both. This is Flavors of Ambition, and hospitality is a celebrated character of business in the region. Do you believe it's successful for relationships and business, Dr. Akram?
I would say absolutely. Ramia, in other parts of the world, business is transactional. People do their part and they move on. Hospitality here is really woven into the business fabric. The clients do invite you to their circles, to their special events, to their weddings. They open the doors of their houses, and it really goes beyond food and drinks. I'll tell you something that's really quite interesting and unique, especially in this part of the world in KSA. When I usually get introduced to new clients, the first start for few days or weeks calling me by my name, until a magical question comes, which is Abu what? And Abu in this case means, they want to know the name of your eldest son or daughter. From that moment, they start calling me Abu Zain.
Yes.
It's a small gesture with a very deep meaning. In a way, it means that we now consider you one of us. We are in this journey together. And that's the sort of hospitality that establishes trusts that can really achieve anything. And that's really unique to the region.
It's an honor to be called Abu Zain. Dr. Yaser.
I think Dr. Akram mentioned a key word in the foundation of business relations in the region: trust. And in order for someone to build that trust, it is really important to let a person's guard. When you're engaging with someone for the first time, it is really important to know them in the personal level, to have the common understanding, because, for business relations, communication is key. Communication is not just language. It's not just words you say. It is really the context in which things are said, and many times not said. So it is really important that you build the trust, you build the relationship where the comfort level is there, so that you can be open and transparent about difficulties that you might face and so on and so forth. And this is really important. The nature of the culture here is relational. In here, typically, when you get into a business relation, it is a relation for life, not just for the duration of the business engagement.
And when you're sitting at the table with friends and family and business relations, what is your favorite dish?
So I'm from a particular region in Saudi that is famous for dates. I'll use this as an advertising. I don't do any farming. I don't have any family that trading in it, but I am a consumer of Qasimi dates, especially sukkari and barhi. These are the two favorite ones. This is one of the things I crave when I go to the US. It's usually very difficult to find, especially the sukkari part. And now it's becoming more abundant and available outside Saudi. And I think the secret is out. But this is something that when I start, I cannot stop. So,
Dr. Akram, can you set the stage for us? I mean, with your experience advising governments and businesses on data, AI, smart city strategies, you've seen firsthand what it takes to transform national ambitions such as Vision 2030 into reality. What were the essential building blocks that Saudi really needed to establish its AI ecosystem, and why was laying the groundwork for what's happening now so important?
Certainly, a lot has been happening over the past years. I would say since the Saudi AI journey started around 2017, 2018, 19. to really lay the grounds for the creation of something massive like HUMAIN today. At the very beginning, we certainly needed a torchbearer, a national torchbearer who will really own the AI journey. And there came the creation of the Saudi Data and AI Authority back in 2019. And that was a pioneering move because that came at the time when other nations were still scrambling on like, what do we do with data? Is it even a national topic? Do I put it under a digital ministry? KSA made it clear, say, this is a topic of the highest national priority. We're going to create an entity that would drive this. Then we needed a North Star for the nation. And then a year later in 2020 came the National Strategy for Data and AI, NUSTI, that everyone has been following. In fact, KSA already for the second year in a row has been ranked as #1 globally on the Global AI Index on its national AI strategy. A lot of the foundational building blocks followed afterwards, starting with data. We needed to get the data right. So the National Data Management Office under SIDAIA put the foundations for a lot of regulations for data, whether it's data privacy, data sharing, the government data practices, and the National Information Center played a key role in actually executing on some of these regulations with the creation of something like the National Data Bank, which really consolidating all the government data sets together for the use in AI and advanced analytics. Talents was also a major pillar that Saudi Arabia focused on. So there's first the SAMI initiative to train 1 million Saudis on AI. There were several academies that were created or focused on AI, such as the SIDAIA Academy, the MCIT Digital Academy. In fact, KSA hosted one of the first national AI Olympics in the world for school students, and last year hosted the world's first international AI Olympics, bringing talents from all around the world. We also needed to make sure that the AI that is built is actually relevant to the context of Saudi Arabia. And this is where the creation and the activation of the National Center for AI became important, initially led by Dr. Majid Wajri and later on by Dr. Yaser himself. So we started seeing relevant innovations for the context of the country, such as Alam, such as Ainai, etc. So all of these ensured that we started building these blocks one by one. There's, of course, a lot that we can talk about, but all of these were critical moments to get us to this very special moments to start focusing beyond just what we need to do locally to how we can become a global player on the international scene.
And what do you both see as the region's ambitions when it comes to AI, and how does Saudi fit into this picture, Dr. Akram?
See, for years now, the global AI narrative has really been polarized around two nations, the US and China. But if you look into the past few years, when it comes to the scale of the ambition, the scale of the investment, the diversity of the initiatives, I think this really tells us one thing. The Middle East wants to be that third global pole or hub for AI, the place where the best adoption of AI can take place, the most relevant AI developments are happening, the place where infrastructure for AI is not just serving the region, but potentially the world, and maybe in the future, where the future of AI is shaped. And countries like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates have been at the center of this ambition. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it doable? I think with the right execution and focus, very much so.
Dr. Yaser, do you believe that Saudi can be third after the US and China?
I believe Saudi can be a real contributor when it comes to advancing AI in the world. I think that we can bring in unique set of skills and viewpoints, especially with blending AI with the humanity angle of the application of AI. That can bring in a unique proposition at the world stage. Should we be number 3, number 4? I don't really believe in these rankings. I think that people get fixated onto indices. I would like our success to be measured on how well we improve the livelihoods of people who are using the technology in their everyday life. The measurements is not just what impact that we have in Saudi Arabia. We want to have that impact worldwide. Do we have a chance? It will be difficult, but I do believe that we are here to obviously bring that to the table. I think that we have unique advantages also. So yes, we have some deficiencies that we're working on improving on, but we also have unique advantages. One of the unique advantages is that we have young, hungry populace, men and women that are tech savvy, and they are ready for the challenge. And then I think they're, working with them in the last 3 years since I came back to Saudi, I can tell you that they can compete anywhere, whether the U.S. or any of the other countries. While in the U.S., I actually worked in some European scientists and engineers, and I can tell you that I'm more than happy with the quality of the people, that, especially the foundation of it, that the drive, the desire, the ambition also. So yes, I do believe that Saudi can be a significant contributor in this field.
Maybe continuing on the theme of aspiration, and Dr. HUMAIN today is maybe a representation of that scale of ambition for KSA. And we tend to refer to it now as KSA's national AI champion. From your perspective, what does that role mean, and what does it really mean to be responsible to build the end-to-end AI ecosystem in the country, covering the infrastructure, the technology, and even the end applications?
So I'll start with what it does not mean. It does not mean that we will be the only player in AI in the kingdom. That's not the intent. That's not the ambition. That's not what we want to do. What we want to be is a catalyst for executing on the vision of the leadership of Saudi being a global hub for AI. And for that, we will contribute in building the infrastructure necessary for executing on that vision, not only to serve Saudi Arabia, but also to serve the world. And we believe that we are in a unique position to be able to do that. Will play significant roles also in building core capabilities, in terms of, sovereign capabilities that can contribute to the success of the country, but also, again, this is something that we can take to the world. It will also mean that we will be contributing to the talent development aspect of this, and, working on, the talent is really important, because we are in a unique position to complement and supplement what is being provided for the likes of MCIT and Sadaya and the universities, because we are in, through the partnerships that we have, we offer unique opportunities also, learning opportunities in that space. The other important aspect that I want to also touch on is that the enablement of the ecosystem. When we're talking about enabling startups require foundational things. They require infrastructure, and we are in a unique position to this. So, for example, Alam, you don't really need to invest into building an LLM. We have taken that, and we can provide that for anyone who can build applications and solutions on top of that. Infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, GPUs, what have you, all the things that are required to run AI, all of those will be provided through the company. And we will ensure, that we get into this with the ecosystem, the startup communities and so on, in a way that it enables them to be successful, but it's also beneficial to us as well.
So we're seeing HUMAIN's initiatives come to fruition. I'm looking forward to seeing more to come in the near future. Dr. Akram, from your experience working with governments and businesses, how would you say organizations can avoid falling into the trap of announcing big AI visions, but then failing to deliver?
I think if we look into the data, recently we conducted a survey, a global survey for thousands of executives around the world. And we found in that survey that around 75% of the executives treat AI as among their top strategic priorities. But unfortunately, only around 25% of them believe that they actually manage to create tangible impact out of it at the scale. And the lessons from that survey and what's behind it made it clear that every executive really needs to be treating AI in the AI economy era as a top priority, not just another IT project. Building the foundations, of course, is important. You cannot do AI if you don't have your data right, if you don't have your infrastructure stack right, if you don't have the right governance. But for me, really, the decisive and a differentiator component is really the people and the ways of working. The recognition that AI is so transformative that it changes the way how we interact. It changes the way how we do business. It changes the way how governments interact and deliver services to their citizens, how companies produce new products or services, how they operate functions such as human resources or procurement. So really, the way to get AI right is to recognize that AI is a catalyst for change and using it as an opportunity to rethink the way how we work, the way how we collaborate.
And Akram, I mean, from your perspective, where does the region as a whole stand in its AI journey, besides Saudi and the UAE? And how is it progressing in building its capabilities in order to compete globally?
I think in general, the region is doing well. We are on a promising path. You mentioned Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. We have a clear agendas being executed upon. But other nations are also following suit, whether it's in GCC, the likes of Qatar or Oman, but even beyond that, Jordan, Egypt, Tunisia, all of these are nations have set in one way or another national AI strategies. If you look into the other components, talent, we are certainly building that momentum. In fact, both Saudi Arabia and UAE are leading globally on the attraction of STEM and AI talent and retaining this talent. Of course, in relative terms, are we there when it comes to creating the critical mass that position the region as a global AI talent hub? We're not there yet, but certainly we are building that. When it comes to infrastructure, as you know, there have been massive announcements for investment commitments. KSA making announcements of around 6 gigawatt on AI infrastructure, UAE around 5 gigawatt. Now, this is good, and it would help certainly serve locally and globally. It's very important to work on identifying the demand and ensuring that this is done in a way that doesn't create overcapacity in the market. There are other areas where certainly we need to push ourselves a bit more. Adoption, for example, there has been interesting use cases around, autonomous mobility, around intelligent traffic management systems, visual pollution, city management, energy, healthcare in different parts of the world, in different parts of the region. But we certainly need to scale and deepen that adoption to really unlock the value of AI, whether it's economically through increased productivity gains in the key economic sectors or socially through elevation of quality of life by adopting AI in the key social sectors. The other area where I think we need to pay more attention is R&D and innovation. I mean, historically, the region has been lagging in this space, not just related to AI. I think there has been some good successes, started with KAUST a few years ago, now with the National Center for AI that produced Alam and other innovations in UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed University. But we certainly need to keep pushing because really this is the foundation that we need to build today in order to basically remain relevant and future-proof our AI journey. And maybe on that point, on the R&D, Doctor, you joined the National Center for AI quite early in the journey. From your perspective, what were the key building blocks that you needed to start with there in order to build this capability foundation for the kingdom?
So when you are working on research and development, and anyone who has done a PhD would understand the value of patience. So while you will be always pressured to produce something and quick wins and so on and so forth, when you're talking about R&D, it is always important to keep the balance between the short term, the long term, and the medium term. So it is important to structure whatever you're working on with these three things in mind. So when you are making a long-term play, you need to make the necessary investment to build the right foundation to get there. So one of the things that were important is to attract the raw talent that can be mentored and coached to become great researchers. I think that was really important to establish. AI is relatively new in the kingdom, so it was an important stepping stone to be able to build that foundation. What I've been always told in these great institutions that I have worked in the past is that you have to earn your keep, though. You cannot keep working on long-term things and never show anything out. So for you to earn the time that it allows you to do long-term research, you have to deliver in short term so that you can continue to do the investments necessary to do more longer-term things. So it is very important to do it in a manner that not all the team is working on long-term, and not the team is always in a firefighting mode. It is important to balance the two. This is, if you're in it for the long term, you need to make the necessary investments in building this. Shortcuts might be helpful for the short term, but nothing beats fundamental foundations when it comes to the long term. So when we're talking about ambition in the kingdom, for example, for AI, it is not something that we want something flashy and then move on to the next flashy thing and so on and so forth. We really mean it that, we're trying to build the right foundations for the investments for the future. And, going back to the infrastructure, you mentioned the infrastructure. Yes, we have the ambition to build, fairly large investments into that space, but we will not build it to be empty cities and empty data centers. We will build it in a way that it will be consumed, and that in conjunction with the offtake of those things that we are building. Same thing goes for other things. We're not building in isolation of the ultimate customer and the user of the technology. We want to be working hand in hand with the intended user of the technology to make sure that it's actually serving their purpose. We don't want to build things just because we love the technology. We want to build a technology that fundamentally brings a value add to the person using it. If you talk about adoption, I think that a key metric and a key objective for when you're building AI is to make sure that it's serving a purpose. Again, people get excited about the new shiny objects, but AI should not be that. AI should be really helping me do my job better, more efficiently, or it will allow me to do other things that I wouldn't do otherwise. And if it fails in that, it will just be again, a flashy thing that, you get bored with and you move on to the next story.
Dr. Akram, alongside all of the excitement that AI is generating, there are a lot of concerns about ethical implications, about risk. What are the most important issues we need to understand right now? And how should we be thinking about challenges like bias, like misuse, and even the push towards artificial general intelligence?
Indeed, Ramia. Historically, we have been talking about the traditional risks such as biases in data and by that also biases in AI. But I would say recently there have been three new types of emerging also major risks that we were seeing. The first one is the risk of widening the inequality that already exists in this world. And here we can talk about within the nation, between the poor and the rich who can afford to use AI, but also between nations, widening the digital divide and accordingly the economic divide between the traditional global south and the global north. The other major risk is the risk of misuse. I think especially with generative AI, we have really seen kind of widening misuse, whether it's about misinformation, whether it's about cyber attacks, etc. And again, this is really becoming, as we all know, kind of more visible. The third one, as you mentioned, is artificial general intelligence. Yes, there's a lot of excitement imagining getting AI into the same level of intelligence as humans, but that comes with two consequences. First, with that overexcitement, we might miss the opportunity to leverage and utilize the existing AI in human-centric use cases to solve for challenges that exist today around education, around healthcare, around access to resources. The other risk is that with this overexcitement, we might start overlooking some of the potential risks or the new kind of bypassing some of the guardrails, especially as we narrow the gap between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. So we really need to design and enforce new frameworks at the global level and translate them into local levels that keep us, within the guardrails, so that we continue to create value by AI while still containing ourselves within the ethical guardrails.
If we say to remedy bias, the system needs to be trained on diverse data sets. That's a solution for the first issue. What are, briefly, solutions for issues 2 and 3?
I think for the second one, it's really important that when we do AI, we move on from the idea that we are in a race in AI. Yes, a lot of nations have been adopting that. The reality is that we will all lose if we continue racing with AI and see basically who's going to be the first to reach a certain technology, or who's going to be the first to create a lock-in situation. It's very important that we drive cooperation and collaboration at the regional and the global level to ensure that no one is left behind on AI. On the third one, I think it's important to maintain artificial general intelligence right now within the boundaries of academic research until we get a better understanding of what it actually means. Because the reality, if you go to academia today, despite all the public messages by some entrepreneurs, by some technology leaders around AGI being around the corner, the reality is that within the academic realm, this is still under definition. There are still many building blocks. So we should stop racing towards it and really focus on how we can create value, a human-centric value around AI, while continue to advance the AI scientific agenda beyond specific economic or political agendas behind them.
And Dr. Akram, there's a lot of debate about whether AI will replace more jobs than it actually creates. How do you see this unfolding, and how should we prepare?
Indeed, this has been a highly contested and debated areas. Unlike other technologies that have mostly been about doing things faster or more efficiently, AI is fundamentally about mimicking or replicating the human intelligence. So frankly, I really find it difficult to imagine a future in which AI ends up creating more jobs than replacing. Yes, that might be the case on the short term, but on the long term, I would say very unlikely. We do need, according to that, to upskill people to make the most out of AI in their daily lives, in their jobs. We need to reskill people who might end up losing their jobs and shifting them to more AI-related jobs. But we also should not ignore a group of people who ultimately might end up with no jobs at all. We need to focus on supporting their mental health, their emotional resilience, their ability to self-discovery and creativity to see what they're going to do basically at a time when AI takes over. I would say that, in my view, one of the biggest challenges and probably opportunities that we as a humanity will need to solve for or look at in the coming couple of decades is whether we will be able to land at new economic and social models that allow us to shift the narrative from how do we deal with the jobless community as a crisis, to a new conversation when we say, how would the world look like when people don't have to work and a jobless society or community becomes an advantage to really rediscover what truly means to be humans?
So what are you saying? We're free and we don't have to work?
Maybe, if we manage to get this right, yeah.
And Dr. Yaser, tell us a little bit about how HUMAIN is working on gender parity. What initiatives are you taking here?
So I think that the issue of gender gap and when it comes to technology is something that you observe internationally. And if I've been working, as I said, for many years in the U.S. It is many of these companies strive to strike more parity when it comes to female and male, especially in the technical fields, and it always hovers 20% or low. And if you and there are many programs that try to address that gap, but I think that they're not looking at the fundamentals of it. If you go to schools, if you go computer science, it's typically not more than 20%. If you go to electrical engineering and other engineering disciplines, it's even less. So you cannot really solve that problem at the workplace. You need to solve it at the schools from early age. I think that one of the best kept secrets about Saudi Arabia is that that's not really an issue, and this might be surprising to many of the audience, especially the international audience. Saudi Arabia, when it comes to schooling, for example, if you look at computer science, it's more than 50% female to male, and this is something that you won't find in many of the Western countries, for example. And that actually makes it a whole lot easier for us to not necessarily have any specific programs that says, bring me, female engineers. I don't need to say that. I just need, bring me qualified engineers, and more likely than not, it will be 50% of them female engineers. And this is reflected actually in the workforce that we have. If you walk out through our offices, it's a significant portion of the engineers and the scientists are female. They're not here because they're female. They're here because they're fundamentally sound, brilliant scientists and engineers. Same thing that happened also in the National Center for AI. You go there and you will find the same findings. And again, this is something that what I call this is an organic diversity. This is not a manufactured diversity.
Ramia, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that KSA has been in a mission to solve for the gender gap, not locally, given that it's already solved for, but for the rest of the world. For a few years already, there has been an initiative called the Elevate Initiative, with a mission by KSA to train 25,000 women on AI globally. Job readiness, not just literacy. It started initially with Google Cloud, now with Microsoft, and thousands of women around the world have already been trained with this initiative.
What a huge impact that's having.
Indeed.
Looking back, what were the biggest challenges of building a national AI agenda for Saudi from the ground up, and how did your team overcome them?
So, I was lucky enough to come in with an existing team that existed in the National Center for AI. I was also lucky enough to have great leaders leading the National Center for AI and also Sadai and beyond. So when we started with speech recognition, and focusing on Arabic and Arabic dialects. With Sautek, we started in January for 22, and we were able to showcase, our early prototype of that in this, in the Global AI Summit in September. And that, I think, was really key to rally the people. That you cannot imagine the proud moments that the scientist and engineer felt, because what they had built, people liked. And that, I think, is an important thing to instill in the people, because you could be spending your time in working on things and feeling unappreciated. And it was really important to have the appreciation, not from me by saying nice words to them, but of actually putting something that they have built in front of everyone, and they're trying it and challenging it and actually being surprised of how good it was. And that, I think, brought the, belief in the people that, what we are working on is very important for people. B, can be achieved. We have, we have ways to go, but we have the fundamental important ingredients to be successful in that space.
And pride in expediting it in just 9 months' time.
Yeah. Maybe talking about Arabic AI, Doctor, I always like to refer to Alam as the jewel of Saudi AI. And some people ask the question, why did we need to build a national Arabic large language model and invest that much in such a model?
So I actually want to say something maybe I have not shared with many people, which is our interest in building something like Alam did not happen because of ChatGPT. We actually, the first time we proposed working on this was 6 months before ChatGPT came out. So again, it is really important fact that we are not reactionary when it comes to this. It is really, we felt that for AI to be successful, humans need to communicate with it in a way that they would communicate in with any other person. The failures of early versions of AI is that you as the human needed to adapt to AI, and you speak the language of AI, but that I think will be always limiting. So it was really important to make sure that the AI understand the people, not just the language they speak, but all the nuances of this. And that's what's the promise of large language models. And it was important for us to build something that treats not just the Arabic language as a first-class language, but also the nuances of the culture and the heritage, because that's important for communication again. When you communicate, you're not communicating just with the words you're saying, but there is a whole other context that is very important to bring that into the AI for it to be able to understand humans without forcing them to speak a computer language.
And maybe zooming out a little bit, Doctor, now we have the SIDAIA and its whole ecosystem, including the National Center for AI. We have a HUMAIN. What else do we have to build in KSA?
So I think that we are, building we're on the right trajectory, let's say, of building what is necessary to do this. I think that there are two things that are needed in my mind, which I think that we have started already, and we'll be more than happy to work with people in the kingdom to establish those. One is, and again, this is going back to the talent, making sure that universities and schools, K-12, is adapting what they teach to teach the people not necessarily about AI, but the skills needed and the critical thinking needed to be able to be a contributor and pushing the technology further. And I think that's really a fundamental way of doing things that are slightly different. This is really one of the things that, comparing the American system from what we have here in Saudi Arabia, they don't teach you math. They teach you critical thinking so that you can actually think and reason about math. Americans are not the best in math, but what they're good at is thinking, critical thinking and processes to do this independent research. When my kids were in elementary school, they were asked to do independent studies, and they go to the library and do these studies on their own. I think this is really important to teach these type of skills in universities in Saudi. Again, because if you want to be at the forefront of something, you're not just copying someone else. It is really important to have that skill set. So that's one dimension. I think we need to increase that dosage of critical thinking knowledge within the university system and schooling and K-12. The other one, which is very important, is for what is making the U.S. successful in technology is the entire ecosystem of startups. So this usually, you as an entrepreneur or a founder, you come up with an idea, and you're not asking people to build that for you. You're actually believing so strongly about your idea that you're willing to leave your job, create that company, and work to make it successful. And that, I think, is, we are seeing a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in Saudi Arabia. This is, part of the history. But it's very important to do it in the AI space as well. I know that there's a lot of hype everywhere, including in Saudi Arabia, but it's very important for people to believe in their ideas and push them further. Our role in HUMAIN is to be an enabler for that type of thing.
It's clear, Dr. Yaser and Dr. Akram, that you are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in technology and policy and vision. And I want to thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ramia.